All right. Let's get this out of the way first. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed on Tailboard Talks Firefighter podcast are solely those of the speakers, guests, and host, and do not in any way represent the thoughts or views or opinions of any other employer, partnership, or sponsor. The material and information in this podcast is for general information purposes only and should be used at the listener's discretion. Let's go. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Tailboard Talks Firefighter podcast. My name is Chris from 4th Shift Firefighter. Welcome back. Second episode of the new year. Lots of snow on the ground. Lots of heavy snow on the ground. And I did the old thing where I was like, well, we'll just count this as my workout today. And then I looked at the heart rate strap data afterwards because I threw on the 4th Frontier strap. And it actually was a workout. It took about 40 minutes between about half hour of shoveling, 10 minutes of snowman building. But the snow was so wet, couldn't even build a snowman. It was just so wet and saturated. But I got myself into like 80% of my heart rate trying to shovel that stuff. There was like 6 inches of slush basically. So bringing me to my first point, I told you I was going to do better about this. Go visit, please go check out my affiliates or my friends. First one is the 4th Frontier strap. It's a chest heart rate monitoring strap. It gives you all the standard data that you'd expect, plus lead 2 EKG. So it's pretty cool. You can look at that for the entire duration of recording. It gives you the feedback of lead 2. And then my second one, Rescue 1 CBD, 0.000 THC, and 100% safe for the job. Awesome company, awesome dude. Please check those guys out. It helps me, it helps the show, it helps them. What I want to talk about today is something I mentioned briefly, very quickly last episode, and it was about how Katie keeps me accountable for things. And so I started thinking about accountability because it's kind of a mess sometimes, because you can either help someone stay accountable to what they want, or you can set the expectations and the standards and then keep someone accountable to them. They're two completely different things. Two completely different things that kind of get muddled together, and they can cause a lot of frustration for the people you've asked to keep you accountable when they take and put theirs on you instead of listening to yours. Let's talk about it a little bit, okay? So I did a little not research on accountability, just did a couple searches, and that's where the line started to draw between the two, right? You can, let's say, as a lieutenant, I'm training a new guy, and I say, this is the standard for our department. This is the standard of skill. This is whatever standards we have, right? I make those very clear, and I'd say this is a standard you'll be held to, and this is what is expected. Now it's my job to help keep that person accountable to that standard, right? That is drastically different in a lot of ways than if I had a client come to me, a personal training client, and say, here's my goal and here's the changes I want to make. Would you please help me stick accountable to the goals I've set for myself, right? Two totally different things. And where we can get in trouble is if I have a personal training client come to me and say, this is the standard, or this is what I want to work towards, and I start putting my own standards in there and saying, why aren't you working towards these goals? They'll be like, well, that's not my goal. And it builds a little bit of contempt, a little bit of frustration between the two, because from the client side, I'm not listening, right? They told me clearly what they want to do, and I'm just putting these other standards, expectations out there. And from my side, I'm like, well, this person told me they wanted to accomplish this, and now they're not working towards it. Why are we even working together? What is the point of asking me to help you keep accountable if you're not going to stick to what we agreed upon? So those are two different things, right? But there were some similarities between the two. When I started looking at how to keep people accountable, or having someone keep you accountable versus how do I stay accountable, there was 3 words that kept coming up. And those 3 words were clarity, freedom, and security. Okay. So first is clarity, and it's just identifying what you want to do, identifying the standard, right? If you're imposing on someone or they're living up to that or working towards that, or identifying what you want to do, what challenge you want to complete, or what thing you're driving towards, right? There needs to be clarity in that goal and clarity of what you want to accomplish from either scenario. The second couple listed there, freedom and security, were very interesting, because that's where they said, that's where it changed my perspective on accountability from what I've done in the past, what I've seen been done. Freedom and security, freedom to experiment and try different things that might help you get to that goal. And the security that even if it messes up or doesn't go well, that system isn't going anywhere. Like, you're not going to abandon someone just because they screwed up or didn't live up to it the first time, or they're struggling to get there. And then security also from the client side. Well, I guess that goes both ways, right? Security on both sides. You tell them, I'm here for you. I'm sticking with you as long as this is your goal. and the client says, I feel more secure now. I feel like I can mess up. I can have an off day. I can not do well a few times or something like that, and we can continue working towards it. So it changed my perspective a little bit, and kind of gave me a different image. Instead of being like a referee in any sport, let's just say hockey because it's the best one, where something happens and you immediately blow the whistle and then you serve your penalty, or the play stops, right? Gets derailed. You have to start over, maybe in a less advantageous position. Instead of being that, I think a better approach and a more healthy approach based on what I was reading about is basically imagine like you're bowling and the bumpers come up for bowling, and you're not there to derail something and stop it and rub their nose in it and say how you done wrong and then give them a 2-minute timeout. Your goal is to keep the ball moving, just kind of like boink, like get them back to where it's going to go. And maybe they hit the other bumper, right? They swing too far, the other side, screw up again. But you just keep kind of bouncing them back and forth, and eventually they make it down the lane and they get to the pins, to the goal, right? So be bumpers, not referees. That's what's going to kind of keep us moving forward instead of stopping. And we have to have a meeting about this thing that happened and evaluate it and reframe our goal. That's not always necessary. Sometimes, but not always necessary. Okay. Now, understand that the people you ask to keep you accountable, or the people imposing those standards on you, their version of bumping you will be very, very different depending on what level of the chain they're in, what relationship you have with them. If it's a peer or even someone, I don't want to say below you, but of the same rank or newer than you, and you're using them to keep you accountable, their version of bumping you back in line might be like, hey, did you work out today? Or like, hey, are we working out today? Or, hey, do you want me to shop and cook? Or are you going to eat with us today? Something like that. Something very casual, right? If you decide to have superiors in the chain keep you accountable, understand that their level of bumper might be more significant than you're asking for. Their level of bumper might be a counseling session, and it might be a part of the chain of progressive discipline, depending on what you're asking them to keep you accountable for and what you do, how hard you hit that bumper. Okay, so just be aware of that. But this also brings me to kind of part 2 of this thing. One of the most valuable things I've tried to do, and it's been successful, it's been not, was assemble a bunch of bumpers of different levels of the chain. And they're there for a very specific reason. Usually I have a good relationship with them first, or I've kind of sought them out as a mentor, or they've completed or done something I want to do, or they have knowledge that I don't have, or I'm just friends with them. Like Kurt is a good bumper for me. I can go to Kurt and say, hey, I think I'm going to screw this thing up. I need some help. Or I think I screwed this up. What should I do? I also have people of my same rank. I have people above me that I can go to. And we kind of have the understanding that, like, if I'm coming to you with an issue, I'd like to approach this as a learning thing, not make a bigger issue out of it. So I'd like to run this by you without you automatically elevating it. And that's not really a characteristic that some people have. Some people, if you come to them and say, hey, I think I screwed this up, they're going to be like, yeah, you did, and now we're going to have to do something about it. Instead of giving you the freedom and security of saying, okay, yeah, that was a mess up. Do you know, and kind of helping you through it, right? And yes, if you go to someone higher up in the chain with an issue that might be questionable, they might tell you, we need to make a thing of this. That's been done with me before. Run scenarios by people with personnel issues when I became like a brand new lieutenant, even though I'm still a new lieutenant, and say like, hey, here's the issue. I don't personally want to make anything of this, but I think it might need to be. I'm not sure. And then the person was like, yeah, we do need to make something of this, but we're going to do it in a very controlled way and a fair way, instead of just dropping the hammer, writing an email to the chief, and then this thing blows up, right? So that's not a risk, but that's part of the understanding. If you're going to someone above you or someone in the chain that has that obligation or that responsibility to the organization, and you bring them the right thing, they might have to act on it. I posted something a long time ago, and I should probably repost the story, but it was essentially said, it just came to mind, so I'm trying to remember that, like, if you want administrative decisions, be ready for administrative action, or something like that. Or if you want the administration to get, if you want executive involvement, be ready for executive action. What that came from was, we're all sitting around the table a long time ago, and the guys are just griping, just doing the table stuff, right? And something that a feud in the station was going on, and someone said, well, I don't like it this way and I don't like it that way. It was an impasse. And they said, well, fine, let's just standardize it then. Let's get the captain in here. He can decide. And the captain was listening from down the hall because it was a loud conversation. And he came out and said, if you want me to make a decision on this, I absolutely will. But this does not seem like something you want me to decide because no one's going to be happy. And in that moment, everybody said, never mind, we'll figure it out. Like, we'll take care of it. You don't need to bother yourself with this. Forget we even mentioned it. And the captain went, cool, thanks. And then they figured it out. Of course, not everyone was happy. Of course, one side felt like they lost or got the short end of the stick. But if you want administrative and executive involvement, then be ready for administrative and executive action with everything that entails. If you want something standardized, prepare for it to be standardized, maybe not in the way you want it, or maybe not in the way you think should be done or benefits you, because at that point, they might be looking to benefit everybody. You might have been making out better than you thought. So that was a quick one. I don't want to ramble on too much about this. Just a few things about accountability, a few things about assembling your own personal little team that can help you stay accountable to what you want to do, and also help you stay within the mission and values of your organization and your department or whatever you're trying to be involved in, right? If someone taps you and says, hey, can you keep me accountable to this thing, make that, the first point on there is clarity, right? Be very clear. Is this a personal goal? Is it a department need? What are we doing here? And then be very clear about what they're trying to accomplish, and do your best not to impose your own personal desires and values on that situation, because you're going to have, you might have some. They might say, like, let's go back to the fitness thing. I want to be able to do 10 push-ups. And you'll say, 10 push-ups is good, but I really want you to work towards 20 because that's a much better marker of fitness. Their goal is 10 push-ups. That's what they want to accomplish. So if they get to 8 push-ups and you're like, well, I still got 12 to go, that's not a very good support system. That's not a very good accountability thing. That's kind of damaging, right? Because they might be like, dude, I'm 2 push-ups away from my goal. This is awesome. And you come in and say, yeah, it's a good, but 20 is better. Do your best, okay? Keep their goal as their goal. If it's an organizational standard thing, then you can be a little more clear with that too. Of like, I understand. So let's say there was a rule that you had to be able to do 20 push-ups to be a firefighter. And they say, I want to do 10. You can say, good goal. Based on the organizational values and guidelines, you're halfway there. So yes, work towards 10, but we are going to work towards 20 because that is the greater obligation out there and the greater standard that we have to work towards. And then appropriately give them the bumpers, right? Don't derail them. Keep them moving. Keep yourself moving. And then assemble that team. I know I'm being redundant. I know I'm saying this all again. I'm recapping. Assemble that team of people that you can turn to when you're going to screw something up, when you don't want to screw something up, or you have screwed something up, that you can kind of use as a sounding board that won't automatically elevate the situation unless it's warranted, okay? Doing those couple things, especially the little personal city council that you build, your own personal like little RIT team that you build for dire situations or even just whatever situations, hugely valuable because there are definitely people on the department and in your life that will handle things differently than you, maybe even better. I hate to say it, maybe even better. Speaking from experience, I've more than once put my natural inclinations on handling subjects aside and situations aside and use someone else's tactic. And I can tell you that it wasn't as nice feeling to do that. It wasn't as fulfilling personally in the moment, but the result was probably far, far better. And neither of us looked like a jerk coming out of it. And in the end, it was more fulfilling because now I have another, tool in the toolbox type of thing. And I know that I don't have to approach every situation immediately as I want to. There are these other options out there that aren't as obvious, but are pretty good. All right, guys, let's end it there. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast. Again, please visit my friends, my affiliates, Fourth Frontier and also Rescue One CBD. Check them out. The links are in the show notes. You can also donate a coffee. Thank you so much. I hope you didn't turn this off yet. There was somebody that donated 33 coffees the other day, which comes out to $100, $3 a coffee. I'm not going to pursue the life coach vein that you suggested. I appreciate it, but I probably won't. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for taking some lessons if they apply to you. Thank you for sharing the episodes. Thank you for your support. It's awesome, and I really appreciate it, and I hope to see more of you guys in the future. I'm still trying to get out to departments and conferences and travel and do stuff, but I'll always be here. I'll always be on the show every week. It's going to stay free.
The only fee is if you donate. And that's it, guys. Let's all keep working towards being more capable and durable in the new year and for our job, both on the job and away from it. Talk to you guys soon, and be a fourth shift firefighter.